Hi, good afternoon. I'm your host today, Sumi Suryan from Phuket Hotels Association, and I'm hosting another session of Inspiring Women in Travel Asia. And today we have another special guest. We have Stephanie Strunk, and she's the Manager of Corporate Innovation and Partnerships at Xpdite, and she's based in Bangkok. Welcome, Stephanie, to our show.
Hi, Sumi. Thanks so much for having me.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you started in the industry?
Sure. So yeah, I think there's some children that know when they are really young what they want to become once they're older. Like they have a very clear picture when they're small. I clearly was not one of them. When I had to decide what I want to study after high school, for me, initially, I thought I want to become a lawyer because my dad is a lawyer and he was always very passionate about his job and he was working hard. So I thought, wow, that's a great job. He's so happy. It must make me happy too. So I started with that and I failed really fast and quickly realized that I want to do something that's more hands-on and less theory and more practical. And that's actually when I decided to opt for media design. So I actually did not start in the travel industry. I was working in advertising before. And it was really fun at first to work long hours, to work with big brands, super fancy. But then, I somehow was longing for something more meaningful and impactful. And I decided to continue my studies in tourism and hospitality management. And finally, that's what led me to Amadeus IT Group, which I joined in 2012, I think. And I spent 8 years in corporate strategy, working on a lot of exciting initiatives, and it was a super steep learning curve for me. I think that's the good thing about the industry. You learn a lot in a very short period of time, and I love doing that. And I helped set up Amadeus Next, which is the travel tech startup community of Amadeus in Asia Pacific to support and work with startups and identify startups that they can partner with. So we did a lot of activities with startups in APAC. And in my last role at Amadeus, I was in charge of Amadeus Ventures, which is the CVC, the corporate venture capital of Amadeus, where we invest in startups that have a synergy with the company. And that's essentially what introduced me to the venture capital world and where I am now, which is Xpdite Capital Partners.
It's quite amazing what you're doing. Like, what's the environment like in your workspace?
So definitely in the VC world, I think it's not new that it's quite male dominated, especially when you work with investors. In terms of startups, we do see more female founders also in travel. In the company Xpdite, we actually have way more female team members than male. At the end of the day, it's not really about the gender, right? It's about like what we achieve,
capabilities and skills and our experience. Absolutely.
With that, we are seeing change. Which is great. When we invest or when we assess an investment in a startup, we also look at diversity of the team, right? That's really important to us. The company itself, the solution is important too, but I think what it comes down to is the team, right? And the team's capability and the coachability of the team. And there we have seen that it is really beneficial when there is more diversity and the founding team is more balanced when they have both genders represented.
Oh, fantastic. How is this different to what you were doing before?
So I think when I was part of Amadeus and had the opportunity to work with hundreds of startups and other ecosystem players, it was really the time when I could get into the topic of startups. I think around 2015, it was really when it started becoming really active and a lot of activities happening in the startup space in Asia Pacific. It was when you know, companies like Klook started really small and started growing fast, and others. So I think it was like amazing that we started working with these companies when they were super small, and now they're these unicorns, right? Which is amazing. And of course, this is a rarity. But I think, by being involved in Amadeus Next, like I could get into the topic, I could get connected to a lot of startups, and I could learn a lot from these companies and also how they work. And we try to inject that back into the corporate, into Amadeus at the time. So we saw a lot of processes that were required to take innovation forward in a more efficient way. So we tried doing that at Amadeus, and it worked to some extent. But I think there's also some areas where it was quite challenging, and that's where I thought, okay, maybe if I join the other party, you know, like we can just make it happen faster, and help startups in a more impactful way. And I think when making that shift to the VC world, it's also working with startups from a very different perspective, right? Before it was strategic investments, so you focus a lot on strategic rationale in working with startups, and you need to justify why you want that company to succeed with Amadeus. But on the VC side, it's all about financial return, right? We're investing in the teams. We want to get financial return in a couple of years. We want to exit. So the objective is very different. But regardless, you know, you learn a lot on both sides. So it's been really amazing.
What are the organizations, like what do you see as important to the industry? So what are you fostering?
Yeah, I think like helping startups to succeed is and getting the reward in terms of like helping them grow is definitely an upside. But what maybe people talk less about is also that the tough times, right? That startups go through. They actually have a tough time most of the time. It's really challenging, not just because of the way they want to set up the business, but it's also that there's always competition coming up. It's also about sometimes like the basics, you know, like setting up the basics in the company, like accounting and finance, and getting your business in order is something that fresh graduates may not be familiar with. So this is also where we help startups a lot at Xpdite. We give them that structure because it is needed to also raise the next round of funding. When you want to raise a Series A funding, investors are going to look at that. Also, like, how's your cash flow? How's your balance sheet? How's your financial statement? Do you have your house in order? You know, you need to be on top of that as a founder. You need to know what your cash flow is. So that's something we also help them with, just for them to be able to create a viable business. So that's just one side. The other side is constantly being aware of the competition and constantly making sure that your daily operation is working. So you're juggling a lot of things at the same time, you know. So I think at Xpdite, where we add a lot of value to the startups is by helping them to focus. This is the feedback we receive from our portfolio companies, where we've been able to add a lot of value to them.
That's really cool. I'm also thinking as well, just hearing you speak, like, I mean, the network that you've built over the years must be fantastic as well, you know, and everyone has a very different, unique sort of like skill set and experience, and helping them grow. And I'm sure that you've seen a lot of changes, and a lot of them now are becoming close friends. So do you have sort of like an alumni where you then impart this kind of knowledge or experience to the next up and coming future leaders? What are the programs you have in place for the younger generation?
We're gonna launch a new type of accelerator fund, accelerator program in the region. So like you said, the network that we've been able to build up in the last couple of years is really big. And it's been so great to see that So many of them are still around and either working on different ventures or same ventures, but at the end of the day, like everyone remains super supportive of each other. As I mentioned, this accelerator program that we are about to launch in Asia is all about early stage startups providing meaningful funding to teams that are highly scalable in not only travel and hospitality, but also food and agri-tech and health and wellness, where we see a lot of demand. And to find synergies between these startups and the corporates in the region to help them foster innovation faster. That remains, like, it's always been the goal, and we've made a lot of connections there, and look forward to seeing more startups partner with companies so that they can sell valuable services to these companies.
Yeah, also sharing best practices. I think that's also really important. I guess it's one way of giving back to the community. So yeah, Stephanie, I'm also curious, with so much going on in your work life and professional world. So what do you do to balance? And I'm sure you've got family and life outside work. So what do you do to seek balance between these two areas?
Yeah, I think balance has been quite challenging in the last 2 years, because I just had a daughter who's turning 2 very soon. But I think it's been a really great journey, and balancing, I think for me, taking time for quality time with the family is really important, and it helps me to balance out the noise at work. Yeah, and I think also, like, putting time aside to exercise has always been important to me, and it helps, like, free up your head, but I think for all of us, like, during COVID, like, family has been such a strong support pillar, and it shows us even more, right, how important it is. So I think putting more quality time aside has been really helpful.
Well, you've got like 2 big milestones in your life, starting up the business and also having a child. Okay, well, coming to the end of our interview session, and I have just one more question. So what are the trends that you're seeing like now and before? Like, is there something that stands out? Like, where is the industry heading to?
Yeah, so I think right now the industry is still in the recovering phase, right? Like things are not entirely back to normal. Airfares are up the roof. Hospitality is sort of okay, right? And I think hospitality, and that's also actually what we already see in the travel startup funding landscape happening, is that more investments are going towards hospitality startups, perhaps because that industry or that area is recovering faster than the airline or the airport environment, where they are faced with other challenges that they are trying to tackle right now. So I believe in hospitality we're going to see faster innovation, just because they're back on track. And people are there, and they have the capital to invest, and they see the need to automate and to fill the labor shortage. So I believe there's going to be a lot of activities in the coming months on the hospitality funding side.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And you work in both spaces, like domestic market as well as international, and you're based in Bangkok, am I correct?
Yes, so the Xpdite team is based out of Bangkok, but we look at startups in the entire of Asia Pacific, and for early stage investments, we do invest in Asia seed startups, but we also work with international startups from the US or Europe who are looking to access the market in Asia. So therefore, we also have exposure to US and Europe for the startup investment.
Well, fantastic. I wish you all the best in the future. And I think what you're doing is fantastic, and how far you've come. And also many more that you would inspire throughout your career journey. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your career story and journey with us today. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Sumi.